Hi friends, I would like to share some passages from a very powerful book I wish I'd discovered more than 20 years ago. This book is entitled Women's True Desire. I recommend every woman read it, and even the males should read it as well. The Leading Roles in Love is the name of this chapter. I'm just going to read a few passages. Women who make the first move immediately place themselves in a position of weakness. The moment a man senses or sees that a woman loves him, even though he has done nothing to encourage or deserve her love, he cannot resist the urge to control her in a pernicious attempt to maintain the upper hand. He'll upset her with words and gestures calculated to create uncertainty. He'll refer to an imminent trip out of town, make comments that imply other relationships, mention serious accidents from which he was lucky to escape alive, and make bittersweet jokes about women and marriage. He'll act aloof and distant, which causes the woman to hang on tighter, becoming more demanding and threatening, and ultimately pushes her to begging and pleading. She calls him, writes him letters, drops in, invites him over, buys him presents, offers her support, her help. This is sheer madness and aberration. She is proposing, and he is disposing. After a short burst of euphoria during which she seems to have obtained what she wanted, i.e. the attention of the man in whom she has invested her love, she is soon overwhelmed by anxiety. Knowing how hard she has tried to force this relationship, she sees how nonchalant he is, and she is devastated by doubt. She wonders whether she is loved, and finding no evidence, engages in a tragic campaign to force an indifferent, if not downright contemptuous man to show his love for her. How many women, once touched by love, descend into this abyss. Disregarding their own need to be loved, they offer to love a man thinking that they will fulfill their need to be loved in return. They reverse the natural roles and fall prey to manipulation by men who have been dragged into a relationship against their will or before they've been allowed to make the decision on their own. The moment the roles are reversed, emotional manipulation occurs. Soon the woman feels trapped in a relationship for which she feels completely responsible, while the man feels entitled to take advantage of it, since he's not the one who asked for it. The woman becomes far too accommodating. She conceals her real needs and often tolerates the most terrible humiliation. The man, on the other hand, sulks, threatens, and blackmails, growing more contemptuous, more abusive, and more angry. In no time, her stress level is soaring, brought on by the desperate feeling that she has not been chosen, not been desired, that she is not loved. This role reversal can be difficult to detect in a society transformed by the sexual revolution. In its goal to create more similar roles and identities for men and women, this movement has used indecency in dress, manners, and language most effectively. In the name of equality, it has allowed women to be aggressive with men and more active in the role of pursuer. But while a woman may enjoy taking the initiative in a romantic relationship, she mustn't forget that she does so only at the risk of having him avoid her advances, which would be unfortunate for her, or succumb, which would be fatal for him. Truly, the only way to grasp the enormity of the consequences of this role reversal is to see it in terms of the ultimate antithesis of the love relationship, prostitution. The Bible describes a prostitute as a strange woman which flattereth with her words, and the man who frequents her as a simple one void of understanding. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 5 through 7. She doesn't hide her status. She looks like a prostitute. She is noisy and restless. She doesn't stay home. She cruises the street corners and public squares, always on the watch. And when one of the simple ones slowly sidles up to her, she accosts him, grabs him, kisses him, and declares with impudence, "Therefore came I forth to meet thee, diligently to seek thy face, and I have found thee." Proverbs chapter 7, verse 15. She seduces him with enticing phrases that pour from honeyed lips. And then something strange occurs in an act that defiles the earth and makes it tremble as though to vomit up all who inhabit it. He begins to follow her as an ox goeth to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till a dart strike through his liver, as a bird hasteneth to the snare. and knoweth not that it is for his life. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 22 through 23. As an ox, medical texts are clear about the degenerative effects of castration. A castrated rooster, for example, loses his feistiness, his crow, and his ability to perform sexually. He becomes slow, placid, and quiet. Gone are his proud demeanor and pretentious strut. He never seeks out a hen and no longer displays the characteristic wing reflex. Like a hen, a capone can feed, raise, and defend chicks. It is ignored by the fighting males. It is a true neuter. A castrated bull becomes an ox, a docile, passive animal that grazes with the cows without disturbing them in the least. Its power, fury, fire, and reproductive ability are gone. Exploited and used, an ox no longer inspires admiration, enthusiasm, and a sense of vitality. A castrated man becomes a eunuch, apathetic, without will, devoid of character or definition. His intelligence may be developed, but it will be hindered and more strongly influenced by his emotions. He is evasive, deceitful, deliberately touchy, and irritable, caused by a profound inferiority complex that makes him jealous of both men, whom he envies, and women, whom he hates because he cannot dominate them instinctively. He is predisposed to psychological disorders, or at the very least, neurosis. A man who follows a prostitute is like an ox off to the slaughterhouse, castrated and condemned to death. Although he believes it will make him more virile, in fact it makes him a eunuch. The image may be crude, but it is calculated to point out clearly the dangers inherent in reversing male and female roles. How can a woman offer to love? How can a man seek to be loved? It flies in the face of nature. It cannot be. It leads to neutering and self-annihilation. For a masculine man, a woman of immodest dress, manners, or language is repulsive, for she excites in him a purely animal thrill, devoid of tenderness. She prevents him from feeling the slightest loving respect for her, and he can only defend himself against her with indifference and contempt. Should he succumb to her advances, his pride will be hurt. He has not conquered anything. He did not initiate love, and his strictly animal satisfaction required no courage, no strength, no honor, and no vitality. He feels emasculated, and little by little anger begins to kindle the flames of hatred. One does not disdain a man's virility with impunity. The love relationship. Once immodesty is part of our lifestyle, a ubiquitous fashion, a way of being, an insistent, obsessive role reversal is imposed, and society is thrown to the lions of impotence and frigidity. Modern imagery seeks stubbornly to blur the distinctions between man and woman so that they lose their unique psychic personas. Men are expected to be passive and tractable in love, and docile and obedient towards women, but increasingly strong, bold, and courageous in work, business, and politics. Women are expected to be tough, uncompromising, and unemotional so that they may perform the new daily duties that require such qualities, but we fault them for not feeling the earth move during intimate relations. Men and women are programmed so that during the day, on the job, and in their relationships, they act in a manner exactly opposite to that required for them to enjoy a gratifying intimate relationship. That is why modern men and women are no longer able to perform the age-old rites of love, with man proudly taking woman and woman abandoning herself with delight to man. There are more sex manuals on bookstore shelves these days than ever, describing techniques, positions, and variations both ancient and new. Restrictions on human behavior are melting away. Anything goes. What used to be considered perversion is now perfectly acceptable. But no one dares say that these ways of expressing the sexual impulse can cause individual suffering and even threaten our social organization, for they transform the role of man, which is to love, to give, to initiate, and to penetrate, and the role of woman, which is to be loved, to receive, and to surrender. For countless couples, sexual relations have become a frustrating parody of intimacy. Many women do not want penetration, holding it off as long as possible, or even refusing it completely. There's more about this, but I'll let you all read the details there. It also talks about the dangers of masturbation and the dangers of pornography. I just hope that the little bit that I've read will inspire you to read this book. It's very powerful, especially when we see society all mixed up about gender euphoria, gender identity, and what the two sexes are. God bless.